My name is Katie Collins-Erkey. I'm the Executive Director at Accessible Resources for Independence. We are the Center for Independent Living serving Anne Arundel and Howard counties. I'm so glad that you all were able to make it today. Just a few housekeeping tips. If you could please stay on mute when you are not speaking, that helps reduce background noise. If you have questions, it's probably best to wait till the end to answer them. So go ahead and put them in the chat. If that doesn't work for you, if the chat doesn't work for you, we can unmute you and have you ask them at the end. What else? Oh, today's session is being recorded. So if you don't want your face on camera, speak now or forever hold your peace. And many of us are going to have to leave at exactly 3 p.m. So please excuse us if we hop out of here in mass exodus. Some of the SIL directors or the SIL directors have a meeting with the Department of Disabilities exactly 3 p.m. So I'm going to turn it over to Erin to introduce our speakers.
Hi, I hope everyone can hear me. I'm not on mute, so I'm Erin Ashinghurst, the Independent Living Program Manager at Accessible Resources for Living. And today I'm really pleased to welcome with us Stephanie Woodward and Leah Smith from EmpowHer Network. Stephanie and Leah are women with disabilities themselves, and they'll tell us a little bit about their work empowering disabled girls to lead, and they'll share with us their various mentor programs, and they'll tell you how you can get involved if that's something you wish to do. So now I will pass it over to Stephanie and Leah.
Thank you so much, Erin, and thank you all for having us today. We're really excited to be here. Just to start things off, I'm Stephanie. I have curly, reddish blonde hair. I'm pale, and behind me is a picture from an ADAPT protest far before I ever got involved with ADAPT, because that's in black and white. And it has my favorite protest sign that says "Asking did not work." And additionally, for visual description, there may or may not be a puppy popping in and out of the screen because he is a menace and will chew everything if I don't have him in my lap. I'm going to pass it over to Leah.
Hi, I'm Leah, and I have short blondish brown hair. I guess it's almost shoulder length these days, and glasses. I have a window behind me. I don't have any, hopefully no dogs, and definitely no children that will be interrupting. So I think we're good.
All right, and with that, I'm gonna start to screen shares. It does take a lot of energy on my part to figure out technology, so apologies in advance for the multiple times I'm sure I will mess this up. There we go. Just so you know, the general theme of our PowerPoint is purples and whites, and we will be visually describing throughout, but if you need an accessible version of this PowerPoint, we can make sure to get it to you. So we wanted to start with just some basic facts about women and girls with disabilities, because I think it really lays the foundation for why Disability EmpowHer Network exists. So while women are 50.8% of the population, 1 in 4 is disabled, but we can't find any statistics about women with disabilities in leadership positions. We have found stats on women in leadership positions, and those stats are not as good as we would like them to be. And we've also seen stats on women who are marginalized in leadership positions, but that marginalization does not include people with disabilities. So we started looking at, well, what facts are there about women with disabilities that are available for us? And we found that disabled women experience the highest rate of unemployment for people with and without disabilities. So that means that we are unemployed at higher rates than both women and men without disabilities, but also more so than men with disabilities. And that women with disabilities have significantly lower self-cognition and self-esteem and greater social isolation than women without disabilities. And of course, I don't think this is going to surprise anyone. Girls and women with disabilities have significantly less education, more overprotection, and poor quality of intimate relationships. So all of these are rather alarming and made Leah and I think, gosh, we should be doing more about this. And I wish I could say that that was really our motivating factor. But if we're being very honest, Leah and I got together one day and was like, why aren't the women in charge? Like, why are there so many men in leadership positions when we know women are doing the work? We're not saying that men should never be leaders. We're saying there doesn't seem to be an equitable distribution here, and particularly for women with disabilities. So that's what got us started, and the facts just backed us up. So when it comes to mentoring, which is what Leah and I are really focused on with Disability EmpowHer Network, it's disabled girls often don't have disabled adult role models to be positive influences in their lives. And the research shows us that disabled girls have a greater need for disabled adult role models because there's less visibility of successful disabled women in our culture. And I think that we all know that when we can see ourselves in somebody else, it helps us be motivated and think that we can achieve things. Leah, do you want to add anything?
No, I think that usually when we start talking about this, everyone, all the women usually are like, yes, like I feel this. So yeah.
And I can certainly say for myself that this definitely impacted me. I did not have a disabled woman role model until I was 19 years old, and I started my first internship at an independent living center. And it blew my mind to see a boardroom full of people with disabilities, women in wheelchairs that were adjusting their positions during the meeting, and like nobody thought anything of it. Sign language happening. Like there was just so many things that people were expressing and doing with their bodies that in any other space, I think people would have felt that it was wrong or distracting, but in that space, it was just bad. And it was really empowering for me to be like witness that. So when we're looking at the impacts of mentoring, I hope that none of this is coming for a surprise for you, but youth with mentors experience an increased self-esteem and an increase in confidence as well. And students with mentors are actually much more likely to graduate high school. And related to that, women with disabilities who graduate from high school are more likely to gain employment. Statistics show that it actually increases dramatically when you have just a high school diploma. And beyond that, it can increase if you have a college diploma as well. So I think that that's a really important point for us, because when we're looking at unemployment rates, we've really got to focus on graduating. And young adults who have a mentor are more likely to become leaders. Studies are showing that there's 130% more likely to have a leadership position if you've had a mentor. So that brings us to the basics of Disability EmpowHer Network. And I think I will let Leah take it away.
So all of that, we decided, what are we going to do about this? And we, as Stephanie said, we wanted to create a program, an organization, what have you, that would address some of these issues. So Disability EmpowHer Network empowers girls and young women with disabilities through mentoring and transformational learning. We are aimed at trying to equip disabled young women with the skills they need to successfully deal with the disadvantages they face, both in everyday life and in times of crisis. And our program to achieve this via mentoring, skills training, and leadership development. I think the next slide is the one that goes into our camp. Is that right?
Oh, no, apparently we're talking about us.
Okay, so let me go back real fast and give a little bit of detail on this. So what we're aiming to do is have a camp for in the summer, which brings disabled girls. Because of COVID, there's a little bit more of constrictions on who can come. But of course, once those are removed, it will be nationwide. And what we're really aiming to do is, have fun, first of all, but also teach them. It's going to be teaching them independent living skills, essentially, but we're also teaching them, why am I losing the word, Stephanie?
I think you're thinking of disaster preparedness.
Thank you.
There we go.
Yes, disaster preparedness skills. And so then with that, we will team each young girl up with a mentor. And that mentor will follow them for the rest of the year, not literally, but figuratively. That will be with them for the next year. The girls will develop a plan for a project in their communities. And then the following year, we will meet up in DC and have a advocacy week with them where they can learn about advocacy skills and lobbying and some of all those great things that happen in DC. So that's in a nutshell. And I think we're going to go into more detail after we explain who we are.
Yeah, but I think that really is an important overview to get into just quick basics. I think you already know that I'm Stephanie, but some background. I'm an attorney, I'm an activist, I'm an organizer. I've worked for some US senators, the good ones, at least I think they're good. I worked for Tom Harkin, who introduced the Americans with Disabilities Act, so I'm a pretty big fan of him. And I also worked for Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. But what makes this relevant to the skills that we'll be doing at camp is that I also led a team of only disabled people helping other people with disabilities in distress in Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria. So what that means is that Portlight at the time sent a whole bunch of disabled people in and said, disabled Puerto Ricans need help. And I don't know if you guys remember Hurricane Maria, Puerto Rico just wasn't getting help in general, which means that people with disabilities were really not getting help. And we found that by having a fully disability-led team resulted in better resources and assistance to people with disabilities, because we know the questions to ask, but we also know how to modify different ways to address things, because not everyone can just jump in a car and go somewhere. And so we were able to meet people's needs in a better way. And I think that that's really going to translate well with our EmpowHer camp.
So my name is Leah, and I am the project coordinator for the Center for Dignity in Healthcare. We look at healthcare outcomes for disabled people. I managed an anti-suicide campaign called Live On in the past that's aimed specifically towards people with disabilities. And then I developed a National Disability Film Festival looking at the institutional bias. All that to say, I've been in the disability world, aiming most of my work on disability empowerment and such for the past 10 years or so. Oh,
and I should say that though we gave descriptions of ourselves, each of these slides did have pictures of us that are remarkably similar to the descriptions we gave you today. So we're going to get into our programs. Leah already gave you a preview of EmpowHer Camp, but we also have another program that's nationwide called Letter from a Role Model. So here on this slide, we have a pink background, and on front of the pink background, there's an envelope with a heart on it and words that say, girls with disabilities, do you want to be connected with a role model? And so Letter from a Role Model really comes from the idea that particularly during this pandemic, a lot of people have been feeling isolated, and specifically girls with disabilities who already experience higher isolation, as statistics show, are experiencing it more now that some are virtually learning, some are in classrooms where you're still 6 feet apart and not having that social aspect. So there's a lot of isolation happening. So our goal when we started it was, we started it in December, and we said, we just want to find 5 girls, just 5 that could use a role model right now, a really encouraging letter. And we'll, like for the new year, we'll have that letter sent to them. Since then, we've connected over 18 girls with successful adult disabled women role models. And we are continuing to receive nominations every week. And we aren't planning on stopping because we're finding that the results are just incredible. So the girls receive a letter from their role model, and that can lead to a long-term relationship. And we leave it to the girl and the role model to make that decision. Because the way it starts is that a parent and a social worker, a teacher, an independent living specialist can nominate a girl with a disability to receive a letter from a role model. And through that nomination, they tell us a little bit about the girl, her age, her disability, what she's interested in. And we work really hard to match them with role models based on these common interests, disabilities, and personalities. So for example, our very first match that we ever made was a fourth grader with arthrogryposis. And her grandma said, she's really worried that she won't be able to put on makeup because of her disability. And like that was a pretty big concern. And she loves art and she's great at school and she just misses social interaction. So we thought, you know what, like you're worried about makeup, we got you covered. We connected her with Sarah Gaver, who is a beauty queen with arthrogryposis, living in Florida. And she was able to write this girl a letter saying like, I can give you tips. I can tell you the modified utensils I use to apply my makeup, but also like, let's talk just about you. What art do you love? And now they are consistent pen pals. So while the girl did not know the letter was coming, when she received the letter, she actively chose to engage. And that's why we don't make it a required long-term commitment, because the girl generally doesn't know the letter is coming. Sometimes the parent tells them, sometimes leave it to be a surprise. And within the true mentality of nothing about us without us, we want her to want this relationship before proceeding. So we do tell every role model that this could result in a pen pal or an email pal, or it could not. And it's really up to the girl to make that decision. Leah, did I miss anything?
No, I think the true power behind this is, I think we can all remember if it's happened the first time that you've ever met someone else with the same disability as you, and it's a powerful moment. And I've heard across the board of, when I think most people do remember that moment and remember seeing someone with their disability for the first time. And to be a young girl that has that and has a letter it's amazing.
And not only is it great to like see someone, but to have them write a letter just to you,
right,
adds a whole new element. So it's one thing to have role models to look up to. It's a whole different thing when that role model is writing to you.
And to address your current, whatever your current accessibility challenges or your current worry about your disability is a really big deal.
And we are seeing a lot of results. So who are our role models? Our role models live all over the country and have all different disabilities. In fact, if they all had the same disability, this wouldn't work, because we really match people based on the disabilities and their interests. So not every girl with CP is going to be matched with a mentor with just CP. They have to have other things in common. Because if one is interested in music and the other one doesn't care for music at all, that's not a good connection. So we really work hard to find those connections. Most recently, we connected a girl who's autistic in Washington with a role model who has autism. And the girl is super interested in Star Wars and said, I don't get people and people don't get me. Like, that's it. And that was like her statement about herself that her mom shared. So we connected her with her role model, and her role model told her that having autism is like having the Force, because in Star Wars, having the Force is looked at as like kind of weird, but it's actually a superpower. And that being autistic is the exact same thing. Some people may think you're weird, but you actually like have a lot more to you than what others see. And like she took that to heart. And it really like meant a lot to her. So we're really excited about that relationship. But others, we connected a wheelchair user who is very self-conscious about her height with, and she's a transracial adoptee. So we connected her with Mia Ives-Rubel, who is a transracial adoptee who is short and uses a wheelchair. We worked really hard on that one. And the girl's biggest concern was that she's not a good public speaker. And Mia is not only an incredible public speaker, but is speaking everywhere. And so she was able to share in the letter that in middle and high school, she was really self-conscious and didn't like to speak a lot. And she's pushed herself to do that. And 2 weeks after receiving the letter, the girl who we connected Mia with signed up for the debate team at school so she could work on her public speaking. So just like the role models, the girls that receive them are all over the country, all disabilities, generally are 8 to 18 years old, but we have connected someone who is 7, and we've connected someone who is 31, who said, yeah, I'm an adult, but like I feel like there's still like mentoring I need for growth in my life. So who are we to say no? Of course, like I would love a mentor still. So why not? So we make all those connections, and they can be nominated by themselves or family members, school counselors, anyone who really thinks like, hey, this girl could benefit. And then we're moving on to our Empower Camp. And this is an image of trees and a lake. And on top of that image, it says, we are proud to partner with John Dillon Park for Disability Empower Network's 2021 Empower Camp. And there are 3 additional images, one of a wheelchair accessible lean-to, one of a accessible nature trail, and one of Grampus Lake. So Leah's already given you a little bit of what we're talking about, but I'm going to pass it over to her to share a little bit more.
So speaking about disasters, and we started looking at disaster strategies, and disabled people are 2 to 4 times more likely to be killed or critically injured in a natural disaster. And we also found that, and I think Stephanie can probably speak to this, that the people who receive help are those who are able to seek it. And when she went to Puerto Rico, she found that the disabled people were the last people to actually get help. Do you want to add anything else to that?
I think that it's notable that I arrived in Puerto Rico 3 weeks after Hurricane Maria, and we were finding that most people we encountered we were the first source of assistance that they had ever come into contact with.
So, what we found was that there's no programs that are focusing on preparing disabled women and girls for a disaster. What needs to happen? What do we need to do? How do we prepare women and girls for these situations? And as you all know, unfortunately, this can be hurricanes, this can be power outages, this can be tornadoes, flooding, you name it.
Snow in Texas.
Right. Yeah. So that is what we are aiming to do. Do you want to go to the next slide? Do you want to take this one over, or do you want me to keep going?
I think people are probably sick of my voice, Leah. You sound much nicer than I do.
All right. So we have 4 stages.
Really, no. I like your voice. You remind me of John.
I hope it's Leah that reminds you of someone named John, but it could be me. Go ahead, Leah.
So I went into this a little bit a while ago, but we have our camp that's divided into 4 stages. We have the skill building, which is where we're going to teach girls how to endure a natural disaster. We have the projects and mentorship. The project is each girl will develop a project that they will complete over the next year. And we're, I think we're going to be amazed at what the girls come up with and their ideas, but we're imagining those to be how to make their communities more accessible, how to who knows what they're going to do. I think that it'll be interesting to how they add disability in their projects. This is helpful. Stage 1 is the camp in the Adirondacks for a week, which I think we mentioned. We are going to develop those independent living and leadership skills. I think the amazing thing about developing natural disaster strategies is they often correlate with independent living skills, right? So learning how to get clean water when you need it, or how to what do you do when you have no power and you have a power wheelchair, some of those things. And then everyone involved is going to be disabled women. So I think just having that experience of being around a team of disabled women role models will be also very powerful. Go to stage 2. So the projects and mentorship aspect of this. So as I mentioned, after camp, they're going to have these local projects that they're involved in. They're all going to be individualized based on their own interests, and they're going to check in with their mentors on a monthly basis on how those projects are going. And the mentors, of course, will provide assistance with those projects. And but they can also, I think what will come out of that will also be discussions about accessibility and school and disability issues and how do you set a goal and all of those important things that come out of not only setting a long-term goal, but also when we start talking about disability and when we give girls space to address the ableism that they experience in their lives, and a space that's safe to talk about will be really valuable. So then after a year, they're going to reunite in DC and they're going to present their projects and explore how they've grown over the last year. And I'm really excited for this part to see. I think it'll show us if what we're doing is helpful or not. And but they're also going to be, we're going to schedule them to meet with disability rights leaders, FEMA, Congress, meet with their congressperson, etc. So we have a full year packed for them that we're really excited about. So after that full year, we're not just going to let them go. Once you're part of our network, you're always part of our network. So we stay connected with our participants to help them achieve their long-term goals. So what are their goals after that? What do they want to do? And I really doubt that once you have a mentor that it would end after that 1 year. Of course, it would continue for a lifetime if you so wished. We also provide information and referrals for higher education, internships, and employment opportunities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think anytime you get a group of disabled people together like this, all of that naturally happens. And so, of course, we would foster that. So, Stephanie, take it away.
Yeah, so we're telling everyone about this because we want as many people as possible to get involved, because we want to help to empower as many girls with disabilities as possible. And I think it's selfish on our part because Leah and I wish we had this. So we certainly welcome you to nominate a girl for one of our programs. Specifically, letter from a role model is a really quick and easy nomination form and an easy way to get a girl immediately, and by immediately I mean within a month or so, connected with the role model, because we need to give the role model time to write that letter. And for Disability EmpowHer Network's Empower Camp, right now we are accepting nominations for girls to attend camp nationwide. We may or may not be limited to only allowing girls who live in New York or the contiguous states, depending on how COVID rules evolve. And so that is a big up in the air. So while we will welcome nominations from everywhere, who is able to come will not be based on our decisions so much as it will be based on the state of New York and who they will allow in. And right now the rule is that anyone in New York or a contiguous state is fine to travel to New York. And thankfully we'll be at John Dillon Park, which has so much space that maintaining 6 feet of distance won't be much work for us. In fact, it'll probably be more work for us to get closer together because of the amount of space that we're provided. And the fact that the lean-tos that we'll be sleeping in are missing a side, so we can guarantee fresh air at all points. We also encourage you, if you are a woman with a disability, to volunteer to be a mentor. It can be as simple as volunteering to write that one letter. That is a pretty small commitment. And we also have other opportunities as well, but that is a really cool opportunity for you to share your wisdom with someone else. We welcome partnerships for future programs that empower girls and women with disabilities. And we also would love if you tell your networks about us, because the more people who learn about us, the more girls that we can help connect with mentors. And that's it. Can you believe it? I think that we followed the rules of staying within 45 minutes. And now we're super excited to have like a ridiculously robust conversation with you, because talking is obviously my favorite thing. And I might sound like a guy I forgot, is it John? Who do I sound like?
No. You remind me of his widow, John Ritter. Remember John Ritter? Yeah.
Oh, I like John Ritter, except the whole
his widow, part. Amy Yasbit. You do have
Oh,
that.
I remind you of his widow. That makes me feel a little bit better. Thank you.
That's what I'm saying. Gee, you muted me, Katie.
Oh, I don't blame me. I don't have control of the mute button.
Wings, yes.
Is this another Netflix referral? Or?
So I have a question. So for the letters, are they like actual handwritten or sent, snail mail, or do you do emails?
So for the letters, we have all of the role models start with a written letter that is mailed, because there is something incredibly exciting about getting mail these days. I don't know about you guys, but like I get excited for the mailman more so than my dog does. But also because
with that said, it can be typed or written, like whatever.
Right. So we have had role models who have typed their letters, and we have had role models who have handwritten their letters. We have made reasonable accommodations for individuals who can't accept a handwritten letter. So let's say that you're blind and a handwritten letter is not going to do much for you. And we did have one girl with autism who, because of her learning disability, receiving a note verbally would have been better. So we connected her with a video letter, which worked out really well. But generally, we try to stick to a written one, because we also think it's really nice to have that tangible thing to hold on to and to look back on and say, my role model took the time to write this to me. And then after that, if they want to continue the relationship, they can move it to the online form if they would like.
Great.
Someone in the chat. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say there's a question in the chat. Do you want me to read it? Is that easier, or
Go
you can
for
read
it.
it? It's up to you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. For the letter program, can the individual with the disability apply herself, or does someone have to specifically be nominated by someone?
Oh,
or does she
no.
have to?
Here's the thing. You can nominate yourself. In fact, nothing about us without us, right? Like if you know you want that role model, please come on down. But we also recognize that some people may be nominated by someone else. So we have gotten self-nominations, and then we've gotten parent nominations. We've gotten IL specialists make nominations. Guidance counselors at schools have made nominations. So because sometimes you don't maybe recognize as a teenager that you could use a role model, but someone else might recognize that. So we really want to make it as open as possible so that girls can get access to those role models.
Yeah, go ahead, Sid.
I'm unmuted there. You were at the end, you were referring to New York a lot. Are there geographic restrictions on this?
No. So our camp is taking place in New York. But
yes and no. During COVID, there's geographical.
Well, okay, yes, okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Stephanie. Sorry.
So there's no geographic restrictions on the letter. Letters can be sent and received from anywhere. Probably the United States might be our only restriction, because some people might not have the money to put a stamp on an international letter, but probably not. I mean, we could probably make that happen too. Right now, we are working with the parameters that New York has set. So New York's parameters right now are that if you are coming from outside of New York State or a contiguous state, then you would have to quarantine for 3 days, then be tested on the 4th day before you're able to engage in any activities, which would make it very difficult for a girl from Texas to come to camp this year.
Okay.
But should those restrictions change as we hopefully continue to advance and have safer parameters in our world, man, I'm just really hoping on that one. Not that I think a vaccine will solve everything, but I'm hoping that it solves something. Then we may be able to accept girls from a wider region. But to be incredibly transparent with you today, we work with the parameters that are set before us today, rather than hoping that they might change in the future. But at the same time, we are indeed hoping that if not this year, future years, we won't have these travel restrictions.
Thank you.
Stephanie?
Yes.
What you were saying with natural disasters, are you helping these people in Texas with this ice storm that just hit?
Am I helping them? Personally, I am not in Texas to do anything. I am making donations. Disability EmpowHer Network, though, is Our goal is to train girls with disabilities to have the skills to help themselves. So we have not trained anyone from Texas, but we do have girls with disabilities in Texas who have been connected with a role model. So we do have
Really?
connections with Texas.
Are you familiar with the mentoring clinic?
The mentoring clinic? I don't think
Yes.
so.
They also help, probably, do you help with Black women with disabilities also?
We help all women with disabilities. If you tell us
Muslim
that-
women, yeah, because my mom did give me something on Muslim women. And are you familiar, where are you located at?
So our programs are nationwide. I am in the beautiful state of New York, and Leah is in the sunnier California.
Really? Really? So
Yeah.
I have a cousin that lives in New York also. Lives in Brooklyn,
Oh, I'm in the better part of New York. I'm in upstate.
upstate New York. Yes, but try to look up Shura Inc. if you get a chance.
All right, I'll write that down.
Yeah, Shura Inc. They help with Muslims and stuff. But you know how you have things here that my mom gave me this. I can't find the thing. It's from Abilities Network.
Okay, we have another question from Abiola. Abiola, do you want to ask your question for the speakers?
Yes, I was just wondering, of course you mentioned Puerto Rico, which is, of course, is a part of the United States. But my question is whether or not the network extends or has linkages internationally, like to other countries. That's my question. But I also, before you answer my question, I just have to say that I am completely geeking out. This is so exciting. And I wish that something like this were available when I was younger, but I'm so excited for these opportunities that will be presented for the younger generations behind us. So great job. Anyway, so go ahead.
Thank you. Oh, I'm so glad that you're excited. We are, I think, elated about being able to have Disability EmpowHer Network. So when it comes to international, I think our only restrictions are right now COVID for our EmpowHer Camp, but for our letter from a role model, I think our only restrictions would be making sure that we could afford the stamp, which is not that much, because role models do volunteer their time, their paper, and their stamp when they write the letters. And then probably any language barriers. So if we get someone in another country who speaks a different language, we would work very diligently to connect them with a role model who can write them a letter in the language that they know. I think
So
there's another
question from the chat.
Oh, you're good at this, Katie. I'm gonna stop reading the questions. I'm gonna leave it to you.
Sorry. What are some of the qualities?
Fine, I'm asking a question here.
Oh, well, we have some questions in the chat, so we'll get back to you after we're done with those, okay? So what are some of the qualities, what are some qualities you are interested in for someone to be a mentor besides their disability?
Oh, absolutely. Being disabled does not automatically qualify you to be a role model. You have to have interests in things and share those interests with us because we connect people based on interests. And we are genuinely looking for women who are proud to be who they are. We don't want anyone writing letters saying, yeah, it sucks to have a disability, because that would be a terrible letter to receive. Leah, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, a lot of times people volunteer to be a mentor and then don't hear anything immediately from us. And that's not because we don't think you would be an excellent mentor, but we're just having to connect you with the right person. So we're just, oftentimes if you do apply, you might be on that our list for a little while until the right person comes along and we connect you.
Yeah, that is a question we get quite a lot, is like, I signed up last week, why haven't you connected me with someone yet? Because we work incredibly hard and take a lot of time to look at specifically the girl and her interests and what she is struggling with. And then we review all of the applications from all of our mentors and see who can make that match. So at one point we talked to the Spina Bifida Association and we had, I don't know, probably 50 women with Spina Bifida sign up, which is amazing. That means you will always be there when we have the right girl come along, but not all 50 match with the girls who were nominated because the interests were different. Or at that same time, we got a nomination from a bilateral amputee above the knee. No one was Spina Bifida unless you are bilateral above the knee amputee, which is incredibly specific, in case you were wondering. That is a very specific disability, who was interested in sports. We had to find a bilateral amputee who is interested in sports. And sometimes if we don't have that and who's already volunteered, we will go and seek out that woman. If we know like this woman exists somewhere, let's find her. And so for the bilateral amputee, I am so excited to tell you that we got to connect her with Oksana Masters, who is a Paralympian gold medalist, bilateral amputee above the knee, and represents USA and kicking butt in the Paralympics every winter with her skiing.
Awesome. So
did you see that I sent to you about John Ritter's brother had cerebral palsy? Did you know that?
I did not know that, but thank you.
Yeah.
okay, so I think Deborah Potts asked, what is the cost to the program?
Oh, good question. To receive a letter, $0. For camp, we work incredibly hard to get donations and sponsorships because we do not want the cost of camp to be a prohibiting factor from any girl attending camp, because we recognize that girls with disabilities come from all socioeconomic levels. So we do require that each girl raise $125, which is nominal to the cost of what it actually costs to attend camp. But we require them to raise $125, and we also require that they're not allowed to ask their parents to cover that cost, because it is important for us that they work on their communication skills before they ever get to camp. And then they already have a win by the time they get to camp. Their confidence is already up because they can look back and say, I asked 4 people and I raised $125, or I asked 10 people, but they went out, took that risk, because there's always a risk that someone's going to say no to you. And that's scary, but it's also such a huge accomplishment when you reach that goal. And those funds go directly to the cost of the program.
Great. Chioki, did you have a question you wanted to ask?
Do you work around people in the arts? Because I did send you a question about Creative Chance, if you want to look that up. Amanda Taylor.
So anyone who is interested in art, we connect them with other people who are interested in arts, but we're not limited to any specific demographic or type of interest. If you're interested in science, we're going to help you too. And it's really about us connecting people with the right role models who have the right interests that fit.
Really? You do? So, but you work in New York. I mean, that's where not the famous people live at, you know.
Yeah, but not all of them are artful. I got to be honest with you.
Oh, she's out in California at the Golden Globes. Can you say hi to This Is Us cast woman?
I will.
Okay.
No, I can't say I have connections.
So I think Erin from ARI wanted to ask a question next.
Yeah, this is Erin again. One of my questions was answered about the relative cost, which is great. It's a very small cost for the camp, $125 and fundraised, and then $0 for the letter. But then I also had a question because I happen to know Stephanie and Leah. If you have time, I know that there was an online policy resource for people who are interested in learning more about how to become a nonprofit leader. I feel like that's somewhat relevant to our conversation today, if you have time to tell us about that.
Yeah, Leah, do you want to do a quick promo for that?
What? I don't know what we're talking
about. Oh, for Out of the Margins.
Oh. Out of the Margins. I couldn't remember the name.
Different project. I was like, we don't do that. Okay.
We do.
We do. So Stephanie and I are also working on another project. And actually, it's funny that you mentioned it. We're planning to follow up with Katie after this to see if we could talk to you more about that. But it's called Out of the Margins, and it looks at so it's aimed. Let me start from the beginning. So we noticed that, finding, obviously we're really into leadership and how disabled people can be in more leadership roles. And what we found was that a lot of times when it comes to nonprofits, disabled people aren't given the same opportunities to learn how nonprofits work and to be on boards or as non-disabled people. And so what we developed Out of the Margins, which gets subject matter experts and teaches you about all the things involved in nonprofits. So there are videos of, and not only videos, but also documents that explain all the ins and outs of nonprofits, from how a board works to the ABCs. You know, oftentimes when we're in a nonprofit, we hear all of these acronyms that are used, and you're like, I can't even follow this conversation. I don't even know what they're talking about. So one of our subject matter experts goes into full detail on what all those are, but also grants and fundraising and what that is about. And you name it, we've really tried to address all of the different issues to create more opportunities so that there's more, everyone's at the table, there's a seat for everyone, and that opportunity or knowledge is not one of the reasons that we can't be at the table.
So if you're interested in that, tell Katie and have her invite us back, and we will go through the entire Out of the Margins, because it's an incredible tool to help not only youth, but quite literally anyone who is interested in learning the skills it takes to serve at a not-for-profit at a executive leadership or board level.
Can you
I think I'm gonna pass it to
send your
Katie.
thing in my chat, please, your info, please? You can send it.
Well, there's lots of people in the chat, so I want to be conscious of answering questions in order. And I think Siobhan, am I saying that right? Siobhan is next. And that question is there protocol that the person has to meet who want to have a mentor? Yeah, you have to be a girl with a disability. And that's about our parameters. And it helps us if you tell us more about yourself or the girl you're nominating, because we can only create as good of matches as the information that is provided to us. So if you only say, hi, I'm 16 and I have CP, we might have a harder time getting you that perfect match than if you told us, like, I'm in drama club at school and I have 2 dogs that I love so much, and my favorite color is purple. Like, that will allow us to make a better match. But again, as long as you're a girl with a disability, we do try to make it so at an age that is more able to understand and comprehend what that letter means. So that's why we started with 8 to 18, but we have gone as young as 7, and we've gone as old as 31. Because we did have some mentors that are in their 50s who were totally able to provide that guidance to someone who's 31.
Okay, real quick, last question. What's the protocol for finding the mentors for the camp?
Great question. Apparently right now, New York and contiguous states is a big one, but we actually look at the girls that we've accepted per camp and try to find mentors that will be good fits for their personalities. Because if you're going to be connected with a mentor for a year, it shouldn't be a crapshoot. It should actually be really well put together. And you have anyone who volunteers for this position, and if chosen, they are committing to a year-long commitment, which includes going to camp for a week. So you're committing to sleeping in a lean-to and hiking and all of that, but you're also committing to checking in with that girl once a month, every single month, and helping her with her project. And you're also committed to coming to DC with us and being there for that final project presentation, for doing hill visits, things like that. And that will likely take place the same week as Nickel, because we do want the girls to experience the disability pride that comes with, like, marching to the hill, because that is an experience like no other.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Stephanie and Leah, for coming on to talk to us about all the great things that you're doing. It sounds like you guys are keeping quite busy. I wanted to open up the floor now for any community announcements, or if anyone has any legislative issues they want to bring up. Nothing's going on this week? No?
Yes, plenty of things are going on. Hey, come on, I'm tired.
I knew you had something.
Trying to pull myself together here. So Independence Now, we're hosting a journaling session is tomorrow. It's from 4 to 5. Abiola, can you put it in chat for me? I know you have it because you've already registered. But it's going to be a lot of fun. We received a grant from Christopher Reeve, so they're going to be sponsoring it. And it's going to be a series of things that we're going to be doing, and I'll get it out to everybody as soon as I pull my life together.
Did you say Christopher Reeve?
Yes, sir.
Yes, of course. There'll never be another one like him. Yes. Do you have?
Abiola's putting it in the chat if you want to join us tomorrow. It'll be a lot of fun.
Hey, any other community announcements? I think for Accessible Resources for Independence, if you're on Facebook, make sure to follow us there. You can also see all of our—
People on the Go is having a quarterly meeting Saturday.
Okay. Oh, People on the Go is having a quarterly meeting.
Yes.
Saturday. Probably find that on their Facebook page too. If you're not on Facebook, you should be on Facebook because it's a great place to find all this really cool stuff that's happening. All right, and oh, go ahead, Cheryl.
The POG meeting is 11 to 1 on Saturday.
Yes, I'm gonna be on that, Cheryl. Can you hear me? Girl,
thank you, Aaron, for putting the Facebook page in the chat. Any other announcements? I think we're actually going to finish before 3 o'clock. All right. Again, thank you, Stephanie and Leah. Don't forget to go to their website, look at their information for all the stills. I encourage you to get this out to any consumers you have and young people. I know we all do a lot of youth work, so get that out, share on Facebook, and we will see you next week for Sarah Baysheart.
Next week is, caught me off guard.
Sorry, I'm gonna remember.
It's okay. Next week is a series of support groups. So there's 5 or 6 different support groups, some of whom are run and hosted by our local Centers for Independent Living, and some of which are just affiliated with us through members and friends and that kind of thing, and then some other outside groups. So it'll be a great, talk about dogs, mine's about to bark. It'll be a great opportunity to hear about different groups that you can join.
Really?
2 p.m. next Monday.
Yes, sir. I'm not making it up. I promise.
All right. Well, everyone go off. Have a great week, and we'll see you next Monday at 2.
I have a question for Stephanie, because I am a woman, because I have a disability, and I have Down syndrome. Just really, you know that.
Well, thank you.
I'm living independently.
Yes, if you want to sign up to be a role model,
with
that'd be great.
roommates.
I think you'd make a really good role model.
Yes.
So please check out our website and sign up if you're interested, because we would love to connect a girl with you.
Okay.
Great. All right. Everyone have a great week. We'll see everyone on Monday at 2 p.m. Bye.
Bye.